All right, so imagine this. It's a quiet Monday morning outside a movie theater in Phoenix, Arizona. Just another day in the suburbs. A Brinks armored truck pulls up, and the security guard steps out with a money bag full of weekend deposits, about 56 grand in cash. He's done this 100 times. Nothing unusual, except this time, he doesn't make it to the door. Out of nowhere, a guy in a hoodie walks up and fires 6 shots, 5 straight to the head, and vanishes on a bicycle. Yeah, a bicycle. He grabs the cash, rides off like it's a Mission Impossible scene, and leaves the 24-year-old guard, Robert Palomares, bleeding out in front of the theater. No shouting, no getaway car, just a cold-blooded hit for a bag of money. And by the time cops arrive, the shooter's already vanished like a ghost in the desert heat. But this wasn't just a stick-up gone sideways. Nah, this was the beginning of one of the longest, strangest, most frustrating manhunts the FBI has ever seen. Because the guy they were chasing, he wasn't your average thug, not even close. He was Jason Derek Brown, a flashy surf bro-looking, BMW-driving, Rolex-wearing fake rich guy with a constant tan and a frozen yogurt smile. He talked like a trust fund baby but hustled like a Vegas scam artist. And the real twist? He had already been training for this moment. Let me back up. Jason was born in LA, raised Mormon, fluent in French, had a master's degree in international business, and even did a missionary stint in Paris. But here's the thing. None of that stopped him from becoming a full-blown fraud. The guy was obsessed with the image. He drove expensive cars, rocked designer clothes, and told everyone he was a successful entrepreneur. Truth is, he was in deep debt, bouncing from state to state, pulling small-time scams and opening fake companies out of his living room just to stay afloat. 2 of his businesses, Toys Unlimited and On the Doorstep Advertising, were basically fronts. No inventory, no services, just a way to pretend he had money when in reality he was drowning in defaulted loans and IOUs. And then he did something weird. Right before the Phoenix heist, Jason enrolled in a firearms training course. Not just one class. A whole week-long course in Salt Lake City where he trained with a .45 caliber Glock, the same kind of gun used in the robbery. He told the instructor he wanted to learn how to protect himself, said he might go into security work. Meanwhile, he's out there practicing at the range like he's getting ready for a showdown. Spoiler alert, he was. Because 2 weeks later, Robert Palomares is dead, $56,000 is missing, and the guy who pulled the trigger left behind a bicycle. And that's when investigators get their first big break. See, Jason may have been slick, but he wasn't flawless. He ditched the bike and some gear in an alley. Cops pull fingerprints. Boom, match. Jason Derek Brown is now the prime suspect in a high-profile armored car homicide. They track him back to a townhouse in Utah. His neighbors remember him bragging about luxury cars and business deals, but when the SWAT team rolls in, he's already gone. And that's when Jason goes full Houdini. He disappears. No phone calls, no credit cards, no sightings. He ditches his black Cadillac Escalade at the Portland airport, long-term parking, windows down, keys still inside, and vanishes without a trace. The FBI issues a warrant, adds him to the top 10 most wanted list, slaps a $200,000 reward on his head. And for years, literally years, there's nothing. Just the occasional false alarm. I think I saw him surfing in California. I swear he was working at a ski lodge in Utah. He's hiding in France. But every lead? Dead end. So now the question is, where did he go? And how do you hide a guy like Jason, a man addicted to attention, in plain sight for almost 2 decades? Well, that's the twist, because the thing Jason always craved, the flashy lifestyle, the attention, the spotlight, that's the very thing that's going to come back to burn him. Real quick. If you like this story so far, go ahead and like, comment, and hit that subscribe button. It helps more than you know, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next on Tailscape. All right, back to it. So Jason Derek Brown disappears. 1 second, he's in Salt Lake, flashing his Rolex and gassing up strangers with stories about luxury real estate deals, and the next, poof, gone. Now, this isn't just a guy skipping town to dodge a few parking tickets. He just executed a Brinks guard in broad daylight, walked away with $56,000 in cash, and the entire FBI is now chasing him with a top 10 fugitive tag slapped on his back. And at first, you'd think a guy like that can't hide for long, right? Except he does, for years. Let's talk about how. Jason had one very specific advantage over most criminals. He didn't look like a criminal. No tattoos, no priors, no gang ties, just a sun-kissed, squeaky clean face, a gym-built body, and the kind of smile that says, "You can trust me with your car keys and your Netflix login." And Jason used that. Authorities believe he blended in by bouncing between towns, living low-key, sometimes even posing as a Mormon missionary. Yeah, that's how deep he leaned into his old church boy image. Neighbors described him as friendly, polite, quiet, which in hindsight is terrifying. At one point, the FBI got a tip that he was living in Southern California, surfing and working construction jobs under the name Jay. Another lead had him in Canada, teaching English to kids. But every time they showed up, he'd already slipped out the back. And here's the kicker. For 17 years, Jason kept this routine up. No social media, no credit card use, not a single confirmed sighting, just fake IDs, burner phones, and a talent for becoming invisible. The only thing louder than the silence? The paranoia. The FBI was desperate. They released aged-up renderings of what he might look like. They upped the reward. They started using Jason's own vanity against him, putting his story in every press release, every news segment, even on billboards in states he used to frequent. They were betting on one thing, that Jason couldn't resist the spotlight. And guess what? They were right. Years go by. Tips go cold. The FBI quietly starts to scale back the hunt. But then in the most 2022 twist possible, someone uploads a true crime video to YouTube. A deep dive into the Jason Derek Brown case. Old photos, FBI sketches, interviews, maps, theories. The video goes viral, and in the comments, viewers start saying, "I think I had this guy as a teacher in Japan. He looks exactly like someone I knew in Thailand. Check this ESL school in the Philippines. Guy looks just like him." And then one tip stands out. Someone recognizes Jason, not from the US, but from Central Asia. He's been living under a new name, working as an English teacher at a small language center, keeping to himself. Not flashy anymore. No Rolex, no Escalade, just textbooks, khakis, and a second identity, hiding in plain sight. The FBI gets alerted. They cross-reference travel data, passport fraud cases, even immigration records. They find exactly one match, a U.S. passport issued under a fake identity with details Jason would know. But here's the twist. By the time they mobilize a response team, he's gone. Again, Jason caught wind that his cover might be blown, and in typical fashion, he disappears before they even land. Which means this guy saw a YouTube video go viral, realized people were connecting the dots, and bolted before the FBI could knock. That's not luck. That's pure, calculated survival. But now, his world is getting smaller. No more spending big, no more blending in, no more second chances, because the attention he always craved, the spotlight he lived for, it's finally closing in. And when it hits, it's going to burn everything he built. So now Jason Derek Brown is on the run again. But this time, it's different. For the first time in nearly 2 decades, the entire internet is watching. That YouTube documentary didn't just remind people who Jason was, it exposed his pattern. The fake names, the passports, the side gigs overseas. Suddenly, people around the world are looking twice at their smiling American coworker. And the FBI, they've gone into overdrive. They start re-examining everything. Old sightings, rental records, school employment logs from Asia, tax files, student visa sponsorships. They even track language schools in Taiwan, Korea, Thailand, Vietnam. And they start building a digital profile of Jason's second life. Turns out he wasn't just teaching. He was thriving. New passport, new job, possibly even a new relationship. He blended in so well, students thought he was just another expat living the quiet life. And he liked it that way, until the attention came back to haunt him. Now let's pause and talk motive. Because people always ask, why kill a guy for $56,000? That's not cartel-level money. That's not vanish-for-life money. And here's the answer. Jason wasn't after a payday. He was after a shortcut. See, Jason's world was collapsing. He was deep in debt. Creditors were circling. His businesses were failing. And the image he'd built, that rich guy lifestyle with the cars, watches, and yachts, was coming apart fast. The robbery wasn't about the money. It was about control, about proving to himself that he could still win, still outsmart everyone, still come out on top. But he didn't just commit a robbery. He executed a man, shot him 5 times in the head over a bag of cash. And the second that trigger was pulled, Jason didn't just cross a legal line. He crossed a moral one, and once you do that, you can't go back. Fast forward to 2022. After nearly 18 years on the FBI's most wanted list, they quietly removed Jason Derek Brown. Not because they caught him, but because they didn't. Let that sink in. After decades of searching, thousands of tips, hundreds of sightings, surveillance, task forces, international agencies, the FBI took him off the list. Why? Because every resource they threw at him hit a wall. Because Jason was no longer a top threat. He was a ghost. A man so obsessed with attention that he'd learned to completely vanish when the spotlight turned too hot. But don't think for a second that they've stopped looking. They're still watching the videos, still scanning the tips, still running Jason's old aliases through every system you can imagine. Because one day, he's going to slip. He'll use the wrong name. He'll trust the wrong person. He'll check into the wrong hotel. And that smile, that easy charm, it'll give him away. And when it does, when the curtain finally drops, what you're going to see isn't some criminal mastermind. It's just a guy who spent his whole life chasing an image and lost everything trying to protect it. Because the spotlight he craved, that was always going to be the thing that brought him down. It's not over yet, but it's coming. That's the story. Now I want to hear what you think. Drop a comment below. Let's talk about it. And if you liked this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.